Nearly 50% of Gaza's agricultural land is inaccessible or out of production because of previous military activities or because the land is on a no-go area along the border. The fact is that this coastal population now imports fish from Israel through tunnels under the Gaza-Egypt border, and that just shows how absurd this situation is. There are rolling blackouts in Gaza and very insecure electricity supplies, especially the World Health Organization in January. We have shortages of drug supplies, delays of up to 3 months for vital medical equipment. And we know that clinical staff frequently lack the medical equipment that they need. Devices are broken and out of date. We also know that medical professionals in Gaza are cut off from the outside world and don't get the training that they need to update their skills and knowledge. But most importantly, there's also rising unemployment and poverty. 42% of Gaza's workforce was unemployed in the first quarter of 2009, and 70% of families were living on an income of less than $1 a day. We know that this is going to have long-term adverse effects on people's physical and mental health. The children are suffering malnutrition, wasting away, underweight, and have anemia. These families, Gaza's families, are completely unable to access basic food and lack the means to purchase even the most basic items such as soap, stationery, drinking water. It is clear that this blockade is unsustainable. It is no wonder that more and more people are prepared to run the gauntlet from around the world to get these much needed supplies through. Alliances of people from many nations putting themselves in harm's way. People no different to you or I. So thank you for coming today to raise your voices against these shocking deaths of those who sought to get aid through. It is clear how badly it is needed. While it might be the case that easing or stopping the blockade would prevent such terrible events from occurring in the future, we know that the only long-term solution to enduring peace in the Middle East can be through a two-state solution, a viable Palestinian state, and I know you will continue to raise your voice for this cause. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! 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 Free, free Palestine! Thank you. Thank you to Senator Louise Pratt. Now, one of the great pillars of support for the Palestinian struggle for self-determination, and one of the few dissenting voices within the federal parliament that consistently and over a long period of time has raised their voice and called questions, asked questions, I beg your pardon, to the Foreign Minister and other representatives of the Australian Government in relation to their position of the siege of Gaza and so on, is our good friend, Green Senator Scott Ludlam. I'd like you now to give a round of applause to Green Senator Scott Ludlam.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming along on a beautiful autumn day in our peaceful city. One of the things that has brought us together, I think, this time after so much history and all the things that have happened in that troubled part of the world, is that any one of us could have been on that boat. Any one of us. It was a peaceful flotilla to deliver aid to a part of the world that needs it so badly. And it feels as though we're only 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from the folk on that boat. And so what we saw in the media, on our television screens, was a tiny little glimpse of what the people in Gaza live with every single day. And that is part of the significance of this. When you hear about precision bombing, what that actually means is power stations, water treatment plants, hospitals, aid distribution points. Between 2002, 2006 and finally with Operation Cast Lead at the end of 2008, Gaza has been deliberately de-industrialised. There is no electricity there, running water, sewage treatment plants have broken down, which has led to skyrocketing rates of child mortality and deaths among the old and the sick. And this is deliberate. This is not accidental, this is a targeted strategy. And this has to stop. Just had 2 weeks in Canberra in Senate estimates hearings, which mostly are so boring as to not be worth reporting on. But we had senior diplomats and foreign affairs staff and the minister at the table as this was occurring, as the Prime Minister of Australia was speaking to Israel's Prime Minister, and asked them about the use of Australian passports for extrajudicial killings. They tried that on in 2004, they tried it again this year, that the Israeli government stealing Australian identities, forging Australian passports for extrajudicial murders in other parts of the world.
Shame!
This week, a massacre at sea, and there's no way of calling it anything else because that's what it was. It's a massacre by armed commandos of peace activists and people who are doing nothing more than trying to run food and medical supplies into a state under siege. This is the moment right now to turn the situation around, not just for the people who are being deported, for their work and for their activities, but to lift the siege of Gaza once and for all. As the peace movement on both sides of the separation wall like to say, the solution is known. United Nations Security Council resolutions 242 and 336 have established a two-state solution and have established the framework and the foundation for peace in the Middle East over a very long period of time. And it's time that we bring that awful situation in Gaza now to a close. The solution is known. The solution is known, and it's time that the Australian government stepped up and did more than perhaps expelling one single Mossad agent or so-called diplomat for the passport forgeries. It's time we stepped up and took our place in the international community and said that this siege of this community of 1.4 million people must end now. It's possibly not that well known that Australia sells military equipment to Israel. Last year, one that we're aware of, $41 million worth of body armour made in Australia and sold to Israel. It's time for an arms embargo. If Israel chooses to behave like a rogue state, then it's going to be treated like one. Thank you very much for coming out today. Please raise your voices and see you on the march. Thanks to the organisers.
Free, free Gaza! Free, free Palestine! 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 Free, free Gaza! Speaker's schedule, but there's been a last-minute request by a gentleman who is here to make a contribution just before we head off on the march. The gentleman's name is Don Wignall. He is a well-known poet and singer and peace activist, and I've heard him sing before. He's got a beautiful singing voice, and he's going to sing us a song for peace, and then we'll head off on the march. So Don Wignall.
Thank you. Let the earth will set all singing, ringing forth in a chorus, none shall still. Unite and fight for peace. We shall save the world from ravage, we shall brave the warhound savage, strong our purpose,